Hello, and welcome to the channel. And this is a video about a thing that I've stopped and started a whole bunch of times, but I swear to you, this is the last time. This is the last time I stop and start. This is finally the video on the Volks 5-star stories Auge Arsculs kit. One day, I'll know how to pronounce it properly. I don't even think the people who invented it know how to fucking pronounce it properly. But that's what it is. I don't know if it has too many or too little vowels in the name to say it right. But it kicks ass. This is what it looks like built and put together if you do it by the way that they tell you to. If you're little Bobby color by numbers and you just don't want to do anything different, you could do it and make it look like this. And there's people on the YouTube that have done these the way that they are. And listen, my dumb sarcasm aside, those people are amazing. But that is not me. That's not what I do. I don't color in the lines. We're going to do crazy things. Besides that being said, we're going to do crazy things, this kit. So here's the kit, the way it looks when it's put together. And I have assembled it, and I'm going to tell you some stuff about it, about the assembly process, and I'm just going to tell you some shit. And I should know myself enough at this point to not tell you what I'm going to do before I do, because I always contradict myself. So let me shut the fuck up and now talk about things. So this is the kit. It's been deconstructed because we are going to paint it. We are in the middle of painting the kit. So with the assembly of this kit, certain pieces have to be intact to have the piece not just fall into just fucking shatter, or not shatter, but like fall into little guts pieces all over the floor. So there had to be some semblance of assembly that you know, that needed to be done so I can paint it as a whole part. I mean, there's probably more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak, but it's what I do, because when I build these, I like to keep the articulation as much as possible, even though I'm probably in the final gonna do some gluing in place on this guy. I do want what's the word I'm looking for? I want an option when it's all together, once it's painted, so I can decide how I actually want it posed, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is sick. Like I said before in those videos, this is not like building a gunpla. You got to glue stuff together. You got to sand seams to make sure that they fit together correctly. You got to do a lot of prep work. It's like building a real model, like a model car or a model plane. You got to do a lot more handwork on this. And it's like I've seen so many videos on YouTube of people that just bomb out because they don't understand that and they think it's going to be like gunpla and they don't have a good time. But we're going to have a good time because that's what we do on this channel. No matter what, priority one. Not priority 2. Priority 1 is not make the most cool looking thing. Priority 2 is make the coolest looking thing. But priority number 1 is have fun. And not everyone's going to have fun with this. I had fun with it because I like this kind of stuff. I like taking the time and doing these little assemblies and making things all go together. And, you know, that being said, there were some parts that were really just a son of a bitch to put together. The legs were a little tricky because, like, I was trying to figure out how much I could get away with leaving in pieces while leaving things exposed to paint them, and the answer to that riddle for me was build the entire leg together and just deal with it. That was where I paused last time on this project, but that's where we are now. And yeah, that was a bit of a bitch, but I would say the biggest hurdle in this project are these motherfucker feet. Good lord. They got to really where I was just kind of like shooting. You could see if you like zoom close enough in there. I basically had to like shoot some glue up into the inside of the foot. I mean, I made a little goof to where like one of the gap's a little wide, just to pretend like you didn't see that, right? And nothing to see here. But the other one I did not. The other one I assembled it correctly. But it was still just so loose. Like, it was basically the poly cap was floating so loose that I couldn't click the ankle joint in without it just like floating down to the bottom of the foot. So I'm just like, fuck it. Let's just fill the whole inside of the foot with glue. I mean, we didn't lose articulation though when we did that, because like it's got a little, what even, folks, what even is this? Mamoru Nagano, what is this you designed this? This foot has like a uvula, like a throat. It flaps. It's got a throat flap on its foot. But I wanted to leave it flappy because, I mean, like, they put that much effort to put a flap, a mud flap, whatever. It's a foot mud flap. They put that much effort to put it in there, and I wanted to keep it flappy. So I did. Yeah, so you know, it was a challenge to get things to fit the way that was good enough for me for this. I've learned some lessons in this build that I will apply towards future Volks 5-star story kits. But still, I had a good time despite the little bit of struggles here and there. Had a good time with this. Still having a good time. Gonna have a good time finishing it up. Really killer details on this thing. I do have to do a little bit of cleanup on some of these parts, so I do see some kind of glue that I'm gonna get in there and scrub it out. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, out of the box, it doesn't look that wow, because like they knew, like you pretty much tell from the kit they intend you to paint it. It's like, wink wink, it's the color of what's on the model, but they know you're gonna paint it because it looks lame as shit in these colors, like worse than I'm painting Gunpla. But man, like the designs on these are just so killer, like the inner mechanisms and shit. This is one of the shoulder jabbers that goes on there, and it launches off. But like, look at this like inner like stinger thing that moves around inside of the wing. That's so fucking cool. Anyway, but yeah, it's a really neat kit that I had a lot of fun putting together once I got back in the vibe again with it and was feeling it. You gotta be in the vibe with kits. Now, building off of the video that I made about the Aura Battler Dunbine Zerbine Bing Bang Bang kit that I built with the fucking cool paint job and shit on it, I'm gonna use the same similar painting methods. I'm going to apply the concepts that we did where we do the primer coat. We apply a matte varnish to lock the primer coat in and give a nice grit surface that will absorb paint. And then we're gonna paint, and then we're gonna paint on line, and then we're gonna coat it with a clear coat and all the different steps. So, what you do, you build your kit, however you're going to build it, and then you section it out as much as possible because you do want to make sure you can get in some nooks and crannies and get some paints. Because I know sometimes on these custom paint job kits that I see being done, I personally am not satisfied with having a lot of areas that don't have paint just because it's not visible. I don't care. Like, I want them to be very painted in all the different parts. So I tear them down as much as possible. You know, we got some flaps that completely came off, thankfully. On the leg, you had an option for this little open gear jimmy there to be open, and I left it open because there's like a little panel that like it's kind of like it's venting and it's open. It's like an open door to let it steam or something. I don't know. I don't give a shit. It was an excuse for me to show mechanical innards and paint them, so I chose that option that has the flap open. So yeah. Anyway, did the assembly, tore it down to as good as what I thought was good enough, and then whoa, we're already painting. Oh my god. Anyway, what are we doing here? So. You know, the next thing you do, like I told you, you do want to take some silly putty and put them on the joints that you're not going to want paint on so that the things slide together and apart easily. You put silly putty on them, on the joints that you don't want paint on. Some joints you don't care if you have paint on, like these hip joints, because I want them to be very tight because I want them to stand still and not fall over. But yeah, otherwise I put the silly putty on joints and little sockets and anywhere I didn't want paint to go. And that's what stage this is. And the next stage that we will do in the video is I'll show you the layers of paint that go on it to produce the effect that you will see on the part here. The head is finished. And in the head, I did exactly what I tell you I did. You tell me. Now this is part of the video where you tell me what I did. Were you paying attention? Did you take notes? Will you fail the exam? Don't worry, I'll fail the exam. I didn't pay attention to shit. Anyway, so what we did when we painted this, we applied first the layer of the gray over the majority of it, and then a little bit of white with a bigger brush to produce that kind of effect that you see here. It kind of almost looks like underneath the paint, it almost looks like aged denim, and I just really like that look. It gives a texture to boring surfaces, like flat surfaces. It's not mattering so much on this, it's going to matter really on this to make that shit not boring, because right now that's so boring. We need to make it not boring with some textures and stuff, which is why you normally would put water slides and carve scribe lines and all those other things that, you know, people do in this hobby. I don't want to do that right now. I want to do this. But yeah, you provide that texture by doing, it's a quote unquote slap chop shading job with white and gray paints. And then over top of them, what did we do here? We used a couple of different paints. I used a Turbo Dork Zena, God almighty, brain today. What is this shit called? Zena Shift, Turbo Shift, Zena Shift. It's some kind of a shift, because this is the one you've seen before that on black paint, it's this color. On white paint, it's this color. What does the final result mean for something that has been slap chop primed? It means that. a very interesting kind of like a nautilus shell, mother of pearly look that's just very unique and satisfying to my eyeballs. So we did that, and then for the other parts, for the blue parts, it was just a regular turbo dork that is a color shift called Ice to Never that I just really like. It doesn't do so much of a color change based on the stuff it's on top of it, but it does have a pearlescent color shift to it. But when you apply them by themselves, they weren't a huge difference between themselves, and they also weren't as bright as I wanted. So I did what I've told you I've done a million times before. On the Prism Power Zenashift, I used a red wash to differentiate and to brighten up. Ice to Never, we did a blue wash on top of that. And then on some of these little details, like the wires and the little dude in the back there, that little thing, we just used some Skyrat. You can't see it as well because it's dark in my room, but you can see on the label that's pretty much what it does, that weird purple to green business that it does. When you apply this, you need to apply it over a black paint job. So after I did the regular priming, like I'm about to do this, on some parts I had to go back by hand with black paint and paintbrush and fucking paint some of those little details black so that this would pop correctly. On these turbo dorks, if it says paint on a black undercoat, they mean it, because if you don't do it, you're gonna be real bummed. It won't look like it's supposed to. So we did the black undercoat as it's stated, and then we painted it, and then it looks a certain way that you can't even see on camera, so I look like a damn fool. I wonder if I can zoom in and show you. Oh shit, it kinda, come on, focus. But it does have a really pretty, I swear to God, it looks good. Just take my word for it, guys. Yeah, you can kind of see it in the camera, right? Anyway, so then, the other thing we did, we just took some regular, red paint, and we hand painted these little things instead of a sticker. Fuck a sticker! With the A and the little symbol. And then we also did, some panel lining. This is the first, I actually used a regular ass Gundam marker to panel line. And then we chased it with a clear coat, a shimmery clear coat. And we'll just avoid the fact that the top of this thing's head looks like a fleshlight and keep on moving, right? Don't put your dick in that. Anyway, and then, I did the eyes with red, you gotta do red eyes on the blue head. Looks hard, it's going hard. But, this will be what the model will be like, more or less, with some different colors, because I have some colors that aren't represented on the head yet, because the colors weren't on the head, they're only on the body. I've kind of refined my station here of the stuff. Got several cans where it's like one runs out, you just toss it and grab another can. God almighty, I gotta clean up in here. And you get your primer here, here's your matte enamel, your clear protective coat, and then your finisher here, right? And I just always kind of keep them in a line where I can just keep on trucking. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're doing here. And when I come back, I'm gonna show you what this looks like when I do the gray. I'm gonna explain what I did with the gray. We're gonna break it down step by step. So if you want to copy my idea, go right ahead. I don't care. Take my idea, steal it. Be right back. Welcome back to the next part of the video. I have thusly applied the gray. Now, I made a bit of a mistake, but it doesn't matter. But you want to shake the fuck out of these paints. Now, I use these in this method pretty much uncut. There's a little bit of water in there, but not a lot. Because you want your drier paint to be drier, so it dry brushes better, more or less. This is not really dry brushing. This is just me gray part is just me smearing, pretty much. Like, there's a little bit of dry brushing, but not really. There's a little bit of edge lighting going on, but not really. They're just kind of getting it everywhere except for the shadows, which need to remain black. So I screwed up at first and I didn't shake it real good, and the first part it was a little watery, and then I reminded myself, yeah, shake it up, and put it on that little machine and shook the shit out of it. And then, this is not neat, this is not pretty, this is just smearing gray paint all over stuff. It's just to indicate that some light is hitting the object, but not a lot, Sort of details start to lift a little bit, you start to see some things, some depth and some dimensionality, which we will continue on with the second part, which is, we use this guy here, a medium-sized brush, to paint the gray. We're gonna use a bigger brush. I know I'm repeating myself, but there could be somebody who's never seen my video before that's tuning in today for the first time, and they're like, this dickhead isn't explaining things. Well, I'll be the dickhead to explain things. If you don't like it, tough. But what I don't know to explain to myself is where my big brush went. I'd set all my ones that I washed over here. Wait, no, because last night, that one, I think I washed right off the bat. So is it in here? I gotta find the big brush. And that's the medium. Anyway, Somewhere in here is a fat tip brush. What the fuck? Well, do I have to pause the video? I don't wanna, but I guess I'm gonna have to, because Alright, the quest continues to find my big brush. And when I find my big brush, I'll be right back. And we're back with the brush, and the brush is ready. And I got the shook up white paint on the brush, and you can see that there are no like chunks of paint. It's pretty evenly distributed, so when you touch the model, oh, look at that, it only does some edges. Edge highlighting. See that? It's like I'm not really like trying to fucking do anything. The brush just does the work for me and applies these highlights. I'm gonna do this over the whole model. I gotta be right back because I can't do this one-handed and this paint dries real quick because it's thick. Bye. And we're back. And here we go. I wasn't really like trying to do like actual realistic like shadows or nothing. I was just basically edge highlighting the whole thing, just smacking it with that brush, getting the paint on there, having some. Welcome back. And the choice was Hive Dweller Purple with some blood red for some of the highlight or some of the wires and such. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I picked the Hive Dweller Purple because I want it to be darker to contrast against the colors of said armor that I'm doing. So there you go. Get all up in there. Get all in pieces. Get all them little shits in there. And now you get to do the armor. I'm gonna do some slight variations. I'm kind of leaning into the color choices that are on the model, like where this is that kind of purpley color that is originally silver on the model originally, so therefore this will be that color, this will be that color, the tail flap is going to be that color, but the rest of it for the most part is going to be the blue to be the white, to match with the white on the other thing. But I will do some accents, like some things that were normally, like I want to break this up a little bit, like this little side paneling I think should be a different color than the top panel. You know, these little vents are going to be a different color. They're going to be that purple. So we're going to give it more detail work than it came with, because that's what we do around here. Got to take our shit up a notch. All right, I'm going to go paint them colors and I'll be back. All right, so welcome back. Minor change of plans here because I had to do some like testing. So we're doing what I said I was going to do in the last step in a different step. So here we are so far with the head and torso and such and things. Did what I said I was going to do, but I also did the other steps. So I'm like, oh shit, I got to back up and do it again. But, you know, we have a whole table full of parts to do that with. So this is the actual next step that I told you was going to be done. So what we've done here is we have painted with the blue using the Ice to Never. We painted the alt part at the bottom there with Prism Power. Then the only other things I had to do really was like the inner frame stuff I did with the Speed Paint Hive Dweller Purple. And then the only red accent was the A on this part that I had to do with the Speed Paint Blood Red. Next step is going to be doing washes. And I was like, should I break it into two pieces? I gotta do washes and then a coat with the gloss coat and then panel line. Yeah, what the hell? I'll break it up, right? Be right back once the washes are done. Oh shit, hey, real quick to update. The other thing I wanted to add in here was I discovered doing these pieces with the Turbo Dork because I noticed sometimes I have a bit of a struggle. Like I first start doing the paint of the metallics and then it kind of cruds up a little bit. What's actually going on is the metallic stuff that's in the paint is bogging up in the barrel of your brush. So every little bit, like about this section when I hop to here, I just thoroughly washed out the brush to get that metallic crud out of the barrel, and then it started spreading correctly and got over that issue I had there. Because I'm like, I noticed when I first start painting it, it's behaving well, but I don't think it's the paint itself. It's just accumulation of the stuff inside your brush itself. So make sure you do that when you're doing the paint with the Turbo Dork on this, and you should notice a better result with the spreading. Oh, also too, I should add, since I did the last video, I did go ahead and do the slap chop, quote unquote, with the parts. And something I did that was kind of a design decision. You'll notice like on the wings, it's patchier than I normally do, right? And even on these other parts, it is patchier. I did that on purpose because when you go back and look at what I did with this vinyl, because that's the kind of stuff I was testing, you will notice some kind of, we'll call it just imperfections. But I just like the way that it turned out, where you do kind of have a little bit of a patchiness to it, because it's like it's a metallic, but it almost has this like beaten leather kind of look to it, especially on that bottom panel right here, kind of beaten leather look to it. So I'm like, I'm actually going to lean into it a little bit. So when I did these slap chops here, when I slapped them chops, I did that as well, where I just really, especially in these wings, because you're going to need to break up those shapes. They're big, they're boring. It's going to be the same battle with Kshatriya's wings, to be honest, which is why we chose to do that for these. And that was actually what I was testing on that other. I just needed to explain that real fast. So that's the thing. Be right back with the washes. And we're back, and here we are. We're like 90% done now. The washes have been applied, and you can see now there's much more contrast, closer to what we got on that over there, right? Getting a lot closer. Really, the only thing that's left at this point is we're going to spray with a gloss clear coat varnish and then panel line. And that's it for how to do this stuff. I'm going to come back with a brief video after I've done that. I'm not going to repeat it for every single part, but if I have any other variations, I'll kind of chime back. I think there's some things I'm going to do that might be a little different on those wings, especially with those little gems, because there's red gems on that. So I'll be back with some little details that may differ a little bit. Beyond that, you pretty much know how this technique works at this point, but I'll be back in just a few with the final on this, with a little bit more words and thoughts and stuff. And here we are, folks, in defiance of gravity itself. The fucking vampire Auge Arsculs is finally done. So where we are today, now that it's up and standing, I can tell you this fucker is gonna be a shelf diver for sure. So even with like reinforcement on the legs, I mean, it's standing, but I don't want to stomp too hard in this room or he'll fall over. That being said, I think the best way to display this thing is probably going to be to hang it from the ceiling. So River of Blood Dio will have to go for something else. Not a problem or nothing, you know. But yeah, I hope you guys like this. Let's talk about some final little details on this, as far as what happened and what was done. So as I went through it, I realized I'm like, oh, I want to make this thing more vampire-y, you know. So obviously I did here. So the things that we've done, I went and like looked up some vampire eyes and made him some vampire eyes on those little shoulder pieces. I'm like, those circles are too good to just go to waste being nothing, right? Nothing too complicated here though. Just basically did some red in different tones to kind of splotch it, you know. Then used a Sharpie to do like the black hole in the middle, and then work the edges. A little bit of Gundam marker for the finer lines. I'm not like the best eye painter in the world, but they came out, I think, sufficient for me. So that's what we painted for those. What else we got going on here? I wish I could get in here and show you, but essentially what I had to do, maybe I can, I'm trying, okay? What I had to do basically was this talon right here that hangs out. There's like a point in the joint of the elbow. I basically had to squeeze it together, use some really tiny drill bits, and essentially use that as my mount point for the wing itself, because the wing had kind of like about an inch long peg essentially. So made a hole big enough for it to go in there, and then the ball of the base, like there's the beginning, the ball of the joint where it can move. I kind of burred a little area for that ball to kind of sit in it really nicely without like digging a hole all the way through, which gave me a nice foundation to then kind of work around it with some super glue and build that up with super glue. Then you know, a little bit of the same purple, what the fuck you call it, speed paint that I've done with the body, so you can't really tell much is going on other than it's hooked to the wing. But yeah, now you know how to do this. I hope I try to give you as step-by-step as possible if you want to recreate this look, whatever. I know ever since I started this, I've gotten more and more requests on like, how are you doing that? This isn't magic. This is just something I pulled out of my ass that just turned out really good. And I guess it's really unique, and I guess you guys really like it. And I appreciate everyone that's new here, everyone that's subbed to this channel. We're going to be doing more of this. I've always liked the 5-Star Stories designs, but this build in particular really made me fall in love with the 100 scale IMS stuff. and I have like 4 more, I think, in the closet there. I'm gonna do custom builds for them too, because like this is the most fun to me, not just to build this model, but to do a custom paint job and perhaps even do some custom body parts and stuff to just kind of give it my signature spin. But yeah, I mean, this is a lot of fun. And I thought I spent way longer. I spent longer on the build than the paint job, because I looked in my Google Photos and it said that I've only been painting this thing since the 2nd, and it's now like the 12th, I think. So 10 days, not too shabby. But, you know, this method is not a long method that takes a forever time to do. It's just, it's several steps though, as you now know. So thanks for everyone who's tuning in. Thanks for everyone who's got interest in this. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are enjoying this too. And I'll be back for the next model. I'm thinking for the next thing, I bought a model from, it's old. It's almost as old as me, but not quite. Now, if you're 40, you might have an oh my god core memory unlocked. I think this might be the next thing I do. This is from like 1994. And believe it or not, I want to know what kind of wizardry the clear panels for the lenses are still crystal clear. How that shit hasn't yellowed, I guess maybe because it's been in a box for 30 years or something. But yeah, I loved the show as a kid. We're gonna paint this thing up real nice, do a really good job with it. I haven't really done a vehicle. Well, I have like a 3D printed one, but it's definitely not my forte. But the only way I'm gonna get better as an artist is if I continue to do things I don't normally do and learn new lessons. So that's what I wanna do. The journey for me is all about learning and growing and having a good time and teaching people. And that's it. That's enough of my yakking. It's enough of this video. So, if you have any questions about anything in particular I did here, hit me up in them comments. If you have any comments, whatever, I don't know. I'm running out of things to think of for this video. I had points and stuff, but you know, it went out the window. I've only had a little bit of caffeine today. But yeah, anyway, if you got any questions, if you have any things you want to see in the future down the road, whatever, just drop that shit in the comments, and have a good one.